smokes a pack a day. Wait, that's me, but anyway, she doesn't care a thing about that. Hey, she thinks I'm beautiful. Meet Virginia.
Our 67th and final team-by-team college football preview for 2018. It takes us to Blacksburg, Virginia, and the Virginia Tech Hokies, coached by Justin Fuente. Virginia Tech's season opener, by the way, is Labor Day, Monday night, when they travel to Florida State. Virginia Tech coming off a 9-win season. By the way, for Coach Fuente, that's 19 wins in his first 2 years at Blacksburg. Not bad. And he's got to have a big smile on his face knowing that Josh Jackson, his quarterback, who started last year as a freshman, has battled through eligibility issues during the offseason and will once again be the signal caller for Virginia Tech. Josh Jackson, a year ago, I'll tell you, first 2 months were pretty good, especially that week 1 win against West Virginia. Last year, Jackson almost 3,000 yards in passing, needed 9 more yards to get to that 3,000 plateau, and had 20 touchdowns and only 9 picks, and completed about 60% of his passes. You know, he's a mobile quarterback. He's a guy that can get the job done with his feet, but his passing accuracy could be even better this year. He's got a lot of experience around him. The ground game is one of those areas, too, where I think the Hokies will once again be efficient. Yes, you do lose Trayvon McMillan, one of your better backs now with the Colorado Buffaloes, to finish his career, but you do get Deshaun McClease back. McClease was actually the team's leading rusher, and it was a fairly balanced backfield for the Hokies. 530 yards from McClease, almost 5 yards a carry, and had 3 scores. You also get back Stephen Peoples, not much as far as yards per carry, only 3.8, did have a couple of scores, and Jalen Holston is back as well and had 3 touchdowns. So they got a little bit of productivity from several of the running backs, and most of them do come back for another year. Wide receiver, though, you lose your best pass catcher of all time. Cam Phillips, he's irreplaceable, had almost 1,000 yards receiving, very reliable. So entering this year, it could be Sean Savoy who gets to be that number 1 guy. Had 39 catches in 2017, also had 4 scores, and you bring into the mix Eric Kuma. This was a Virginia Tech offense that on all 3 levels, as far as scoring, as far as passing, as far as rushing, pretty much middle of the pack, barely in the upper division of the ACC, 6th in the conference, and scoring at 28 points per game and 412 yards of total offense per game. That was also 6th in the ACC. Initially, the Hokies thought they were only going to get back 3 of the 6 starting offensive linemen from last year. But instead, they're going to get 4 of the 6 back, and I'll explain later. First, the tight ends back in Dalton King. And now for the real good news. That is the center, Kyle Chung, who played all 13 games last year, granted a 6th year of eligibility. That can only help this Virginia Tech offensive line, again, trying to pave the way for the ground game and give Josh Jackson, the quarterback, time to throw. So you have the center back and also a pair of seniors on the right side of the line. But you know something? Hardly anything can slow the Virginia Tech defense down. And should we be surprised? I mean, Bud Foster did it once again. Of course, the veteran defensive coordinator who one day will be in the College Football Hall of Fame, of course, spent so many years in Blacksburg when Frank Beamer was running the show. Well, last year, the Hokies, 4th best team in the country in scoring defense, giving up under 15 points per game, and as far as total defense, 13th in the country, only allowing 319 yards per game. The big reason for that was because of the front 4, and despite losing Tim Settle, you do get back the other 3 starters up front. Vinny Mahota, a veteran's back. You get Ricky Walker back on the inside, a very strong presence on the inside, and he will definitely be well used on that Hokie front. Now, Virginia Tech will run a 4-3 defense, and the defensive end, Trayvon Hill, very productive in 2017, had 46 stops. You get him back. But a little bit of bad news for Virginia Tech as far as that front goes. They were counting on Cam Good to provide a presence inside. However, he left the team in July. Virginia Tech's defense, like I said, statistically, you know, if not number 1 in the ACC, pretty close in several categories. However, it's going to hurt this year. It's going to be a big rebuilding job for Bud Foster, and he was hit with a whammy of bad news, before the season even kicks off on Monday, because he was counting on getting some help and having a co-defensive coordinator in Galen Scott, but Scott left the team as a result of admitting to an extramarital affair. Ouch. But here's a real ouch right here from the football perspective for the Hokies. Of the 10 linebackers / defensive backs from a year ago that had at least 10 tackles, you know how many of those guys come back this year? 1. That's right, 1 out of 10. And that's the guy that will play the rover position, the corner. That's Reggie Floyd. And if it's any consolation, he was the team's leading returning tackler with 72 stops and, by the way, had 3 interceptions. This Virginia Tech team knew that several players would not be back. For example, the Edmonds brothers with Tremaine, who had 108 tackles, as well as his brother Terrell Edmonds, the safety. And they knew that they were losing another terrific player, Andrew Motua-Puaka, the hard hitter, who had 92 stops. But Virginia Tech, these were players that they weren't counting on losing. And listen up on this. Adonis Alexander, their projected starter at the corner. Academic issues, so academically ineligible, so no Alexander. And bless his heart, Jeremy Webb, the JUCO star, expected to make an impact for this Virginia Tech defense. Well, done for the year because of an Achilles injury. Yeah, if it weren't bad luck for the Hokies, they wouldn't have any luck at all. And for Bud Foster, like I said, this would be his biggest rebuilding job yet. You're going to see quite a few sophomores play, some freshmen as well. And one of those freshmen that could end up playing on day 1 against Florida State could be Dax Hollifield. Their #1 overall recruit at inside linebacker from the state of North Carolina. Don't be surprised if he gets a lot of quality PT. So there's no doubt that Virginia Tech up front is going to be a force to be reckoned with, but there's no way statistically that they're going to be able to do what they did last year. Just too many young bodies, but it still, doesn't mean that the defense won't have a productive season, and I expect them, with the coaching of Bud Foster, to once again be a force to be reckoned with. And by the way, with the schedule, that's pretty doable. And speaking of the Hokies schedule, it would appear that the toughest road game, well, it's that first one. And it's the final college football game of week #1. Monday night, Labor Day night, the national stage will be set between the Hokies and the Florida State Seminoles to be played at Tallahassee. But then the next 3 games look easy breezy. And then late September, you got to play at Duke, but I think that's a winnable game. The toughest game of the year right now looks like Notre Dame, but you at least get them at home. The Fighting Irish were on national television Saturday night, and they looked pretty good on the tube in knocking off Michigan. And then the second half of the schedule, again, a lot of games that I think Virginia Tech will be favored to win. Yes, it is a new defense by some accounts, and again, you got to replace the wide receiver and the left side of the line. But there's enough talent back. It's a well enough coached team to where the Hokies are going to give themselves, I think, a realistic shot at the Coastal Division. And remember, you get Miami at home. The Hurricanes, of course, are preseason favorite to win the Coastal, and not taking anything away from LSU, because I thought the Tigers were terrific on Sunday. But, man, didn't Miami look like chewed-up hamburger meat to you? Not the Miami team that we were expecting to see. Of course, Miami could get a lot better between that game and the one on November 17th. But you'd have to say that the Coastal Division looks a little more wide open than it did prior to week 1. Well, I've got Virginia Tech picked second, but keep in mind I made these picks weeks ago, so it's etched in stone. I can't change it. However, don't be surprised if it's Virginia Tech and not Miami that faces Clemson for all the ACC marbles in early December. That's my look at the Hokies. Just a reminder, make sure to keep it here on this channel. Throughout the season, we'll still have my 3 picks when me and the coin will pick 3 games against the spread using the Vegas line, and I'll still have my Oklahoma Sooner pre- and post-game shows throughout the season. We have just finished my 67th and final team-by-team college football preview. We covered all the Power 5 schools plus Notre Dame and Charlotte, as well as Connecticut. Yeah, got to get rested up for those previews for 2019. Again, thanks for watching the previews, and we'll see you next time.